The shooting star tore through Orlin Frost's wheat field at midnight, leaving a blazing trail across his crops. Most farmers would have called the authorities. Orlin reached for his shotgun and medical kit instead. What he found wasn't a meteorite. The smoking crater contained a vessel no larger than his tractor, its metallic surface shifting between iridescent blues and greens even as it burned. And crawling from the wreckage, a creature that appeared both insectoid and reptilian. Its carapace cracked and leaking a pearlescent fluid that glowed under the Nebraska moonlight. When the alien saw him, it froze. 6 compound eyes, each larger than Orlin's fist, focused on him with terrifying intensity. Its mandibles clicked rapidly, producing sounds like crackling electricity. "Easy now," Orlin said, setting his shotgun down. "You're hurt." 20 years of solitude after losing his wife had taught Orlin to trust his instincts. Those instincts told him that this creature, despite its otherworldly appearance, was scared, dying, and remarkably, it seemed to understand him. The alien's trembling limbs, forearms with 3-fingered hands reached toward him. From somewhere within its thorax came a sound that approximated human speech. "Ha, help!" Orlin carried the alien to his farmhouse, aware that he'd crossed a line from which there was no return. The creature was light, despite being nearly 7 feet tall, as though its bones were hollow. Its exoskeleton was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse with its rapid heartbeats. He named her Vix, after the clicking sounds she made when trying to communicate. For 3 days she lay on his kitchen table, her wounds seeping luminous fluid that Orlin collected in mason jars. By the 3rd night, the fluid had stopped leaking, and her carapace had begun to heal itself. On the 4th morning, Orlin awoke to find Vix standing at his bedroom door, her antennae twitching with nervous energy. "Orlin Frost," she said, her voice now a melodic blend of clicks and human speech. "My ship sent emergency beacon. Others will come." "Are you in trouble?" Orlin asked, sitting up. "No. I am Nithvashar, royal bloodline. My ship carried me from civil war. Assassins." Her mandibles clicked anxiously. "They believe I am dead. Good. But rescue party will still come." Orlin processed this information while making coffee. An alien royal hiding from assassins crashed on his farm. If her people came looking, they'd take her away. For reasons he couldn't articulate, the thought troubled him. "How long do we have?" he asked, pouring 2 cups. 7 rotations of your planet." Vix approached the window, staring at the horizon. "They will not understand why I hide. They will take me back to war." Orlin nodded, watching her delicate fingers trace the window pane. In just 4 days, he'd grown accustomed to her presence. She was curious about everything: his books, his tools, the farm itself. She'd helped him repair fences yesterday, showing surprising strength despite her recent injuries. "What if they didn't find you?" he suggested. Vix turned, her compound eyes reflecting the morning sun. "Not possible. Their technology can trace my genetic signature." Orlin sipped his coffee, an idea forming. "Unless they found evidence that you were fully integrated into Earth, that you'd changed somehow." "Changed? Become part of something else?" Orlin gestured to his farm. "This planet. My way of life." Vix's antennae quivered with what Orlin had learned was excitement. "You would help me, after knowing me so briefly?" Orlin smiled for the first time in years. "Nothing brief about it. I've been waiting for something extraordinary my whole life." Orlin's plan was simple, but dangerous. The luminous fluid from Vix's wounds contained her genetic material. If they could disperse it widely enough across his property, it might confuse any tracking technology sent to find her. "It is not enough," Vix explained as they worked through the night, mixing her fluid with water and fertilizer. "My species has adaptive biology. We can form symbiotic relationships with native species. It strengthens us, disguises us." "Symbiotic? Like how?" Orlin asked, watching her pour the mixture into his crop sprayer. Vix's mandibles clicked in what he now recognized as hesitation. "We exchanged genetic material. In my culture, It is sacred, done only between trusted allies. She touched her thorax with 2 hands. My fluid enters your bloodstream. You gain strength, long life. I gain camouflage from your DNA. Orlin paused, understanding dawning. You're asking me to let you inside me? Not physically, just a small exchange. It leaves mark, like your tattoos. She pointed to the faded ink on his forearm. But deeper, it would link us. The implications were staggering. An alien symbiosis. Yet in the week since Vix's arrival, Orlin had witnessed enough to know she meant no harm. Her species, the Nith-Vashar, were peaceful botanists and architects who had evolved on a world with 3 suns. The civil war that drove her to flee began when militant factions sought to weaponize their natural abilities. What happens to us? He asked. After. You become stronger, heal faster, see differently. Her head tilted. I become part of this planet, rooted here, cannot leave. The choice was significant. Orlin looked out across his moonlit fields, remembering years of solitude after his wife's death. The emptiness that had become so familiar it felt like a physical presence. I'm not afraid of being tied to this land, he said finally. It's all I've known. That night, beneath the stars, they performed the ritual. Vix's fluid entered Orlin's. Blood streamed through a small cut on his palm. Immediate warmth spread up his arm, followed by a tingling sensation that reminded him of the first time he'd tasted champagne. Images flooded his mind. Alien landscapes, vast cities with buildings that grew rather than were built, and 3 suns casting multiple shadows across scarlet plains. He saw Vix's memories, her royal upbringing, her training as a botanist, her flight from assassins after refusing to weaponize her knowledge. When he woke the next morning, his vision had changed. The world appeared sharper, colors more vibrant. He could see ultraviolet patterns in flowers that had been invisible before. His chronic back pain had vanished. Vix had changed too. Her carapace now had flecks of brown and gold, colors that matched Orlin's eyes. She moved differently, more human in her gestures. It is done, she said, her voice warmer. We are Kamari, bonded ones. 3 days later, the rescue party arrived. Their ship, enormous and silent, hovered above Orlin's farm. 3 Nith-Vashar descended, their carapaces gleaming with military insignia. When they scanned the property, their instruments detected Vix's genetic signature everywhere, in the soil, the crops, and most strongly, in Orlin himself. Where is the royal daughter? Their leader demanded. Orlin stood his ground, feeling Vix's presence in his mind, guiding him. She's here. She's everywhere. She's become one with this planet. The alien commander's antennae flickered with confusion. Their scanners confirmed what seemed impossible. The royal heir had formed a symbiotic bond with this human and his land. By their oldest laws, such a bond was unbreakable, sacred. This is unprecedented, the commander said. She must return to fulfill her duties. She has new duties now, Orlin replied calmly. To this planet, to me. The Nith-Vashar did not leave. Instead, more ships arrived, forming a constellation above Orlin's farm that local news stations attributed to atmospheric anomalies. Government agents established a perimeter, but they couldn't approach. The aliens had created an invisible barrier around the property. Within this bubble, life changed dramatically. Vix's connection to Orlin had unexpected consequences. His crops grew at impossible rates, wheat stalks reaching 15 feet tall, producing grain with extraordinary nutritional properties. The soil regenerated overnight, needing no fertilizer. Your DNA enhanced mine, Vix explained as they harvested tomatoes the size of basketballs. Human adaptability combined with Nith-Vashar botanical knowledge. Perfect symbiosis. Orlin noticed other changes in himself. At 62, his hair had begun returning to its original brown. His muscles felt denser, his mind sharper. According to Vix, he might live another century. They will not leave, she said one evening, looking up at the ships through the kitchen window. My position in the royal hierarchy is too important. What exactly was your position? Orlin asked, realizing he'd never fully understood her status. Vix's mandibles clicked softly. I am Nithvasharka, the Seed Queen. My genetic material guides our species' evolution. She touched the back of his hand. And now that material is bonded with yours. The implications stunned him. You're saying their queen is part human now? Yes. Her compound eyes shimmered. Any future Nithvashar will carry traces of your DNA, your resilience, your compassion. That night, the commander returned with a delegation of 12 elders. They requested permission to enter the farmhouse, a formality that acknowledged Orlin's new status. Our civilization faces collapse, the commander explained, his translator struggling with the concept. The civil war worsens. Without the seed, queen to guide our evolution, we lose adaptation abilities necessary for survival. I cannot leave, Vix said firmly. The bond is complete. The eldest of the delegation stepped forward. Then perhaps the human comes too, as consort to the queen? Orlin felt the weight of their stares. 14 aliens and Vix, waiting for his answer. He thought of his farm, his solitary existence, the decades of empty rooms and silent meals. I can't leave Earth, he said finally. This land is part of me. The elder's antennae drooped in disappointment, but Vix stepped forward, her carapace glowing softly in the dimming light. There is another way, she said. My royal line has always guided from afar. We can establish an outpost here, a new colony. On this farm? The commander asked incredulously. On this planet, Vix clarified, with Orlin as our representative, our voice. The suggestion caused immediate chittering among the delegation. The idea was revolutionary, allowing a human to speak for their queen. Yet the evidence of successful symbiosis stood before them. Orlin's crops proved what was possible when their species collaborated. Days of negotiation followed. The ships above multiplied as word spread through the Nithvashar fleet. Earth governments detected the gathering and sent representatives, including specialists from NASA and the United Nations. Orlin found himself at the center of humanity's first major extraterrestrial diplomatic event. Yet each night he returned to his farmhouse with Vix, where they tended the extraordinary crops and planned for a future neither had imagined. They will accept you, Vix assured him. They have no choice. The symbiosis is irrevocable. And what about Earth? Will they accept a farm in Nebraska as the entry point for an alien civilization? Vix's mandibles formed what Orlin now recognized as her version of a smile. They will when they taste our crops. 1 year after Vix crashed in Orlin's wheat field, the farm had become unrecognizable. The original 300 acres had expanded to 2,000, with the U.S. government eagerly providing adjacent land to facilitate what was now officially called the Nithvashar Earth Embassy. Crystalline structures grew alongside traditional buildings, their design a merger of human architecture and alien biotechnology. The crops produced under Vix's guidance had revolutionized agriculture, yielding plants that could grow in any climate. With minimal water, Orlin had become quite literally the voice of an alien queen to humanity. His DNA, bonded with Vix's, gave him unique authority among the Nithvashar. When he spoke, they listened with the same reverence they showed their queen. The United Nations delegation arrives tomorrow. Merrill, Orlin's newly appointed diplomatic assistant, reminded him. They want to discuss expanding the agricultural program to drought-stricken regions. Orlin nodded, gazing out over the fields where humans and Nithvashar worked side by side. The aliens' exoskeletons now displayed more human-like coloration, browns, tans, and pinks that reflected their growing connection to Earth. Vix should handle that meeting, he said. She understands the biology better than anyone. Merrill made a note on her tablet. And the military representatives? They're still pushing for technology exchange. Tell them no, Orlin said firmly. Vix didn't flee a war to start one here. His authority in these matters remained absolute, a condition of the treaty he'd negotiated. The Nith Vashar would share agricultural and medical knowledge freely, but military technology remained off limits. Earth governments had agreed, recognizing the value of what was offered. Later that evening, Orlen found Vix in the greenhouse, her forehands delicately pollinating a new hybrid plant. Her appearance had continued to evolve. Her carapace now showed distinct human characteristics, a more defined waist, facial features that suggested expressions. Through their bond, Orlen knew this transformation reflected her deep connection to Earth. "The hive sent new communication," she said, without looking up. "The civil war has ended. My transformation was inspiring to my people. Both factions have requested Earth representatives." Orlen leaned against the workbench. "They want humans. They want Kamari, bonded ones. More symbiosis." She finally turned to him, her compound eyes soft in the greenhouse light. "My people believe our future lies in greater connection with yours." The implications were enormous. A genetic merger of species, beginning with diplomatic bonds like theirs. Not colonization or conquest, but true symbiosis, each species enhancing the other. "Are you sure this is what you want?" Orlen asked quietly. "Your people looking to humans for leadership?" Vix gently touched his face with one three-fingered hand. "Not leadership, partnership. What I found with you, this balance, it's what my species has always sought." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the security system. A Nith Vashar scout ship had detected an approaching object, an asteroid on collision course with Earth, large enough to cause regional devastation. Within hours, the embassy transformed into a command center. Nith Vashar ships mobilized, but Earth's governments hesitated, suspicious of alien intervention in planetary defense. "They need to trust us," Vix said urgently. "Our ships can divert it, but we need permission to operate in Earth's atmosphere." Orlen found himself addressing the United Nations Security Council via emergency video conference, 60 skeptical human faces staring back at him. "I understand your concerns," he told them, feeling Vix's presence in his mind, strengthening his resolve. "But I've shared my DNA with these aliens, I've shared my home, I've shared my life. And I'm telling you now, they're not here to conquer, they're here to connect." As the asteroid approached, humanity faced its first test of trust in their new allies. The decision would determine whether Orlen's unprecedented bond with Vix remained an anomaly, or became the first of many such connections between their species. The asteroid, nearly a kilometer wide, blazed across the sky as dawn broke over the Pacific. 17 Nith Vashar ships formed a precise formation around it, their hulls pulsing with energy that human instruments couldn't identify. From the embassy's command center, Orlen and Vix watched alongside military representatives from 12 Earth nations. The tension was palpable. This was the first authorized deployment of alien technology in Earth's atmosphere. "Gravitational web engaged," reported a Nith Vashar operator, her voice translated through the embassy's systems. "Trajectory, alteration beginning." On the massive holographic display, the asteroid's path shifted subtly, enough to transform a catastrophic impact into a near miss. Cheers erupted from the human contingent, but the Nith Vashar remained focused, their compound eyes tracking complex data streams. "Secondary measure deploying," Vix announced. "Fragmentation array." The lead ship released what appeared to be thousands of crystalline seeds. They attached to the asteroid's surface and began to glow, creating a lattice pattern across the rock. "What are they doing?" demanded General Kors, the Russian representative. "Breaking it down," Orlen explained, understanding through his bond with Vix. "Converting it to usable materials." Before their eyes, the asteroid began to crumble, not into random fragments but into precisely engineered components. The pieces separated along the glowing lattice lines, each captured by the waiting Nith Vashar ships. "Raw materials," Vix explained to the astonished humans. "Metals, silicates, organic compounds. We waste nothing." The demonstration of Nith Vashar technology accomplished what years of diplomacy couldn't. Within days, official requests for deeper cooperation flooded the embassy. Nations that had been hesitant now competed for Nith-Vashar partnerships. They see only the technology, Vix observed as she and Orlin reviewed the proposals. Not the connection behind it. Orlin understood her concern. The Nith-Vashar had avoided sharing their most advanced capabilities specifically because humanity wasn't ready for the responsibility. Their symbiotic biology, the source of their greatest innovations, required a level of unity that Earth's divided nations hadn't achieved. They need to understand the symbiosis first, Orlin agreed, not just what it produces. That evening, addressing representatives from 47 nations, Orlin made an unprecedented proposal. The Nith-Vashar would establish 12 new embassies around the world, each led by a bonded human-alien pair. These Kamari would serve as bridges between the species, each symbiosis creating unique benefits adapted to local needs. These bonds are permanent, he cautioned. They change both participants at a fundamental level. The humans who volunteer must understand they'll never be quite the same. Despite the warning, or perhaps because of it, thousands volunteered. Scientists, diplomats, farmers, teachers, all willing to become Kamari, to merge their DNA with the Nith-Vashar for the advancement of both species. The selection process was grueling. Vix personally examined each candidate, seeking not just physical compatibility but philosophical alignment. The DNA merges easily, she explained. It's the minds that must be truly compatible. 12 pairs were finally selected. The bonding ceremonies, televised globally, became the most watched events in human history. Each human and Nith-Vashar entered the symbiosis with specific goals: agricultural development in Africa, oceanic restoration in Southeast Asia, desert reclamation in the Middle East. As these new Kamar began their work, something unexpected happened. The regions surrounding each embassy experienced accelerated healing, not just environmentally, but socially. Conflicts that had persisted for generations began to subside. The symbiotic bond somehow radiated outward, influencing those nearby to seek connection rather than division. It's changing them, Orlin observed, watching news reports of former enemies cooperating near the Sudanese embassy. Just being near the Kamari is affecting how people think. Vix's antennae quivered, not changing, reminding, humans already possess the capacity for connection. We are simply amplifying it. As the 5-year anniversary of Vix's crash approached, Orlin realized how completely his life had transformed. His farm had become the center of Earth's most important diplomatic relationship. His bond with Vix had extended his life and expanded his perception. And now, 12 new Kamar pairs were spreading that transformation across the planet. Yet opposition remained. Isolationist groups, fearful of alien influence, had begun organizing, and from the depths of the Nith-Vashar civilization came whispers of dissent, traditionalists who considered the hybridization an abomination. The peace they'd built remained fragile, balanced on the foundation of a single improbable connection, a lonely farmer and a dying alien queen who had recognized in each other not just allies, but family. Part 6. The Legacy. 20 years after the crash, Orlin Frost stood at the edge of his property watching the sunrise. At 82, he appeared no older than 50, his hair still thick, his stance straight, his eyes clear and bright with the enhanced vision gifted by his bond with Vix. Behind him, the original farmhouse remained untouched amid the sprawling embassy complex. He'd insisted on preserving it, a humble reminder of where it all began. "Beautiful morning," said Carinth, approaching from the main building. As the first Nith-Vashar born on Earth, he showed remarkable hybrid characteristics: a more humanoid face, reduced mandibles, and skin that shifted between exoskeleton and human-like texture, depending on environmental conditions. "Every morning is beautiful when you've seen as many as I have," Orlin replied, smiling. Across the planet, 217 Kamar pairs now guided the integration of their species. The program had expanded beyond its diplomatic origins to include scientific, artistic, and environmental collaborations. Each symbiotic bond produced unique innovations, from self-healing buildings to communication technologies that operated on previously undetectable frequencies. Earth itself was transforming. The climate crisis that had threatened civilization had been mitigated through Nithvashar atmospheric engineering combined with human ingenuity. Deserts bloomed, oceans cleared, and forests regrew at accelerated rates. The human population had stabilized as lifespans extended and birth rates naturally declined. Not all welcomed these changes. The Pure Earth movement had grown from fringe protesters to a global resistance network, carrying out attacks on embassies and Kamari pairs. Meanwhile, a faction of Nithvashar traditionalists had established a separate colony on Mars, refusing contact with what they termed the contaminated, yet these extremes represented a minority. Most of humanity had embraced the symbiosis, recognizing that it offered not subjugation but evolution, a chance to become something greater while remaining fundamentally human. "The council is ready," Carinth reminded him. "Today's proposal is significant." Orlan nodded, taking a final moment of solitude before joining what would be his most important diplomatic session yet. Inside the central chamber, representatives from both species awaited. 30 humans and 30 Nithvashar, with Vix at the center. She had changed dramatically over the decades. Her exoskeleton now displayed intricate patterns that merged her species' traditional markings with distinctly human elements. Her forearms had become more defined, her face more expressive. Through their bond, Orlan knew these changes reflected not just her physical adaptation to Earth but her deep connection to humanity. "We gather today," she began, her voice carrying the harmonic quality that all Kamari developed, "to consider our future, not as separate species but as what we have become together." The proposal before the council was revolutionary. Official recognition of Kamar offspring as a new species, with full rights and representation in both human and Nithvashar governance. These children, born to bonded pairs, carried genetic characteristics of both species and abilities that neither fully understood. "We stand at a crossroads," Orlan addressed the council. 20 years ago, an alien crashed on my farm. I could have called authorities. Instead, I chose connection. That choice, that single moment of trust, led us here. He moved to the center of the chamber, standing beside Vix. Their shoulders touched lightly, a gesture that had become their most natural expression of unity. "What we propose isn't the end of either species," he continued. "Humans will remain human. Nithvashar will remain Nithvashar. But together, we've created something new, something that combines the best of both." The vote was unanimous. The Kamari children would be recognized as Terravashar, Earthborn, carrying the legacy of two worlds united not by conquest, but by choice. As the council members filed out, Orlan remained behind with Vix. Through their bond, he sensed something she hadn't shared with the others, a vision of the future centuries ahead, when the distinction between their species would blur not through force, but through countless individual choices to connect. "Did you know?" he asked quietly. "When you crashed in my field, did you know what would happen?" Vix's mandibles clicked softly, her laugh after all these years. "I was dying, Orlan Frost. I knew only that I needed help." She touched his face, with 3 delicate fingers. "Everything else, this embassy, our bond, the future we've built, came from one farmer who chose compassion over fear." That night, they stood together on the porch of the old farmhouse, watching spacecraft depart for new colonies throughout the solar system. Each ship carried Kamari pairs and their Terravashar children, ambassadors of a new way of being. "They'll name it after you someday," Vix said. "This era of connection." Orlan shook his head. "No, it was never about me. It was about what happens when we choose to see the other, truly see them, and reach out a hand." Above them, stars glittered in patterns that Orlan could now read like words, his enhanced vision a constant reminder of how he'd changed. Yet for all the transformations, physical, social, planetary, one thing remained as it had been: that first night, The simple truth that meeting difference with curiosity rather than fear could transform not just individuals, but worlds. In the wheat field where it all began, new crops grew, hybrids that combined earth grains with Nithvashar botany. Like the civilizations that tended them, they were neither fully one nor the other, but something entirely new. Something extraordinary. And it had all started with a farmer who took in a dying alien and, in saving her, allowed her to save his world in return.